Hello, good afternoon, and good morning for those who are on the West Coast, and welcome to today's webinar, At the Trade Show, Selling Success, part 2 of our compelling webinar on participating in a wholesale trade show, hosted by the lovely Diane Sulg, who is the Executive Director of Craft. And just a quick reminder that today's webinar is being recorded and you will all have access to that recording after today. We encourage and invite all of you to share any questions that you have using the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. And while we will make every effort to respond to your questions, we will probably keep most of those questions to the end of today's presentation. So without any further ado, let me pass the baton over to Diane. Welcome, Diane, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Sandra. Welcome, everybody. I hope that those of you who were here 2 weeks ago have spent some time maybe looking at your pricing and some of the other things that we talked about. I did have a question from somebody that I know about pricing. Your wholesale price should be your wholesale price everywhere. So if you go to a trade show, you have a wholesale price. If you sell on fair, you have the same wholesale price. If you have a website for your wholesale customers, that's the same wholesale price. You may every once in a while have a special. Many people do at shows. They offer free shipping or something like that. But your price stays consistent until you find it's outdated and you have to adjust it some way, okay? One wholesale price. You can see our opening slide here at the trade show. I just want to point out the front 2 booths. The very one in the middle there, the very front one, is a glass artist, Matt Seholtz. And just notice that he made his booth kitty corner. I'm pointing that out because as we talk about your booth, I want you to understand you can use your imagination. It is your real estate. You can set it up any way you want. I also want you to look at the booth next door, the ceramics by Lori Eskenazi. She has one side totally open and the other side probably 2/3 open. You see, she has one outside panel where I think she put all her ceramic crosses. We're going to look at several other renditions of her booth, showing how your booth can be flexible. But that's all I really have for the front one. We can move on from there. Okay, some booth musts, which you must have. First of all, understand this is your store, okay? And so you can arrange it however you want. Notice that in this booth, this is Linda Doucette from Pennsylvania. She brought in her hard panels. You can do that. The show may be offering you a black pipe and drape, a white pipe and drape. You can opt not to use that and bring in prefabricated walls, or you can build walls. It is your store. Your store needs great lighting. There is nothing more important than lighting in your booth. I have heard people say, oh, the hall is very bright. No, it's not bright enough in your booth. If you can't afford lighting, you can't afford to do the booth, okay? So don't skimp on the lighting. Make sure it's great lighting and everything is nice and bright. Your booth needs to be eye-catching, and that's from a distance, okay? Because people are walking down the aisle. They're wondering if they should get lunch soon. They're wondering if their husband is going to meet them someplace, whatever. And so you need something where they just look to the side and wow, that's bright. And they take a second look at your booth. Your booth needs to be organized. You can't just put your stuff in willy-nilly. You can see in this booth that she has, you can see her little étagère there on the left-hand side. And look how she has lights inside the booth showing not just a dark set of shelves, but she has all her felt cats in a row, and she has a pillow on the bottom, some home items down there. So keep things organized. Over on the left, you can't see it real well. She has all her coasters. So for somebody that comes into your booth, they're looking at a specific shelf, or well, they're getting a clear picture of all the alternatives there. Your space, your booth needs an office for you, and I'm using that loosely. Linda's office is where she is sitting. Notice it has a great sign which says that her work is wool fiber art. That's important because if you just passed her booth, you might not know what it is. You could think those were paintings. So she identifies that, and then inside that little podium, she has some shelving. And in that, she can put her bottle of water, she can put her calculator, her stapler, her order pad. She has a place as an office. She doesn't have her stuff just scattered all over the booth. She has some storage. Luckily, she is on a back row, and she knew this. You can see over on the right, there's a little white curtain. If you know where your booth is, you might find out that there's easy storage behind it. Sometimes when there are back-to-back rows, there's a space in between that artists can use for their storage. You should have seating. She did have an extra chair there. I think seating is real important because sometimes your buyers really are tired and you want them to be comfortable. Sometimes there's a couple, a husband and wife, and the wife is looking at all the jewelry. It's nice to have a place that the husband can just kind of sit and review his notes. Make sure that every single item in your booth has a price. If you are lucky enough to have like a long panel where everything in that panel from top to bottom is $39, you can say that. But other than that, every single thing needs to have a price because truly that's important to the buyer. They have to know what that's going to cost. Their mind's working, they're 2.5ing those items. And if you just say, oh, these are 39, these are 59, these are 6, they can't remember that. Okay, it's like going into a grocery store and not having prices. So everything needs a price. Your booth should be uniquely you, and it will because your product is uniquely you. But keep that in mind, that for instance, her sign, it fits so well with the rest of her booth. I will also ask you to look at the top of that étagère, her shelving unit, and see that she has a TV set. She is running a video of her actually creating, dyeing and wetting the fiber. And given that this is a little bit of a unique craft, it's really a nice thing that people could stand there. Some of them were fascinated by what she did. So keep in mind that sometimes a video is helpful. Okay, Sandra, on to the next. Okay, so we're going to say, how do you have an eye-catching booth? Well, certainly color is one way. This is from a trade show that used black pipe and drape. And so you can see a little bit in the background there between the posters. But aren't those posters terrific? Nice and bright, as is their glass. So that the black drape is almost like disappearing in the background and the color is all moving forward. They are using white pedestals and white boards that they're creating shelving on. Those pedestals are going to be used in many, many booths. They fold down flat and then a top goes into them so that you can just carry a pile of tops and flat pedestals. A lot of artists use something fresh in their booth, like the flowers or some greenery. It kind of relieves the endless product and makes it look homey and inviting, cheerful. So as you walk by that booth, the effect is wow. You are taken by the glass. Notice how it is organized though. either by size or by color. All the paperweights are low on the table where it'd be easy for the customer to pick them up and see them. So that's an eye-catching, colorful booth. And so is this. This booth is from an American Handcrafted show. It was right before COVID set in. And this is Ed Branson, a glass artist. I believe Ed is from Vermont, or Western Massachusetts, perhaps. And at any rate, his booth was voted best in show. And he always uses that bright color yellow. Once again, you're walking down an aisle, you could not miss his booth. Notice that he also made a sign, and you're going to see that repeatedly. The show will give you a sign. It will have your business name on it, and it will have your number. Most of the artists keep that in their booth someplace, usually, so you can see it up or down an aisle. And the booth number is important. A lot of artists might have their own sign and they tack their booth number on it. I'll show you an example of that. But the bright yellow color, I've seen even little booths in bright yellow. And if your product, if it works with it, this might be an easy way to be eye-catching. Okay, Sandra, next one. Your product can be the color. This is another New York Now booth that is using their product as the color, the bright pinks and reds and yellows and greens, blues of their handbags. It's a little messy, but they were really, really busy when I took this picture. And so I just wanted to show you that you don't have to change the drape if you don't want to. Obviously, anything else you do is going to be an expense, and it's going to add time to your setup and takedown. So if you can use what's given to you, all the better. Okay, Sandra, what's next? Oh, there we go. Philippa Roberts. She's a jewelry artist. You notice she's made her own sign, and it's printed right on her walls. And once again, you can see what her walls do. Obviously, she's using white jewelry forms, inexpensive, collapsible. You can see she's using trunks that are boxes, and her jewelry goes into those boxes to travel. So she's actually getting the bang for her buck in two places. She's using them both for travel and for display. But if you are in looking down a row, you automatically know that Philippa is there because you see those bright orange panels, and it's really the only color in her booth. Try to imagine what that would look like all black. It really would not be eye-catching, and it wouldn't be as cheerful. So if you have a less than colorful product, think of using your walls or something like that to add color to your booth. Okay, the next one. All right, this is Lori Pulpita Eskenazi. I said a booth with good basics because she has everything in here. Notice she has brought in flooring. A lot of artists do that. There is carpeting in your booth, but right underneath that carpeting, and it's not real plush carpeting, as you might guess, right underneath that, there's a cement floor. And if you're there for 2 or 3 days standing on cement, your back will feel the result. So this is a vinyl cushion floor. Her two in the front there, those two little ottomans, they obviously lift up, and she can use those as her office. It can store lots of things. Her green pedestals are easy pedestals again. Easy pedestals, I think, at least they used to come just black and white. But she obviously spray painted them with a color that she used on some basic plywood to make tabletops in the back and in the middle. Notice she brings her hard walls. This is a very difficult and tiring setup. She uses it to great advantage. But notice there is a price on every single thing hanging on her wall, even if it's the same price as the piece right next to it. She does a great job labeling every single piece. So this was her entire booth. There was nothing on the outside. Okay, let's move to the next slide, Sandra. And this is Lori's booth this past year. And look at how it's grown. Notice she's added fresh flowers this year right in the front. Her ottomans, you can catch just a little bit of one in the right-hand lower corner. She had them there so she could sit on them or customers could sit on them. She has plenty of storage beneath those draped panels. And she's just done a remarkable job in designing a booth that she can change in so many ways, depending on the show that she's at, even a retail show, if she only does a few of those. Notice her sign. It is up there in her handwriting. She made her sign, and underneath it, it says ceramic artist, but she has taken her booth number 1204 and put it up there. And Lori does extremely well at every show that she goes to, and has put such a great amount of thought into her booth design. You can see that it's well rewarded. Okay, we can go on to the next one. This is a booth that I'm not sure is spectacular. However, it shows that you can hang things without having hard walls. This is obviously a handbag artist, hardware by Renee. And she has really a ladder of swings here. They're on cables, and every bag shows. That's what's great about this. You can easily pick up a bag. It's not as if they were on some system with hooks that were hard to, take one off and open it up. Here, her customers can easily see every handbag. This is on the outside of her booth. She has a space over on the left where you could walk back, and she's done the same thing inside. So again, it's all your imagination and your product. This obviously wouldn't work with jewelry falling off those little slides or shelves, but it works really well with her handbags. So that's a good example of that. Some of you may have wearable art, in which case plan to bring your own fixtures, and obviously they should be fixtures that break down easily. And this is a very small part of a very large booth. She has a lot of tunics and jackets and so on that are in this booth as well. If you have pieces that can be used in multiple ways, like scarves and stoles, then use a body form to show that. Right away, you'll know it's a wearable, not a tablecloth, if it's on a body form. Notice she's tied the scarves like you'd really be wearing them, giving an idea of how they're worn. And she's kept all the patterns together, pretty much. Once again, she has good organization, but she's kept the basic pipe and drape in the booth. So just a good example of wearable. Okay, jewelry. Now, jewelry poses its own set of challenges. First of all, it's real small, and you want to grab somebody's eye, and that's easier to do with a big bowl than it is a small necklace. So this gal, this is also at New York now, she has a 10 by 5 booth. I don't know what sizes are available now, but this was available that year. And you can see that she has used her name at the top of every one of these photo panels. And they're huge enlargements of her jewelry. She's made half of them in red, which automatically is eye-catching, but she hasn't made them all red. She doesn't want the customer to think she only makes red jewelry. And she has replaced the black with basically shower curtains, a geometric shower curtain in a nice but fairly comforting pattern, modern looking. She's done a great job with her booth layout and saying who she is and what she makes, and making it comfortable. Notice she has the jewelry basically at a counter level, probably 36 inches off the floor. Don't put your jewelry down too low. People don't want to keep bending over to see it. Get it up at a good height for them. She does have a mirror she can bring up, but you can't see it now in this. She brings it up when somebody wants to see something. But if you have wearables, have a full-size mirror, and if you have jewelry, add at least a face mirror that people can, even though they might not be buying it for themselves, they want to see how it looks really on themselves and on people. So good jewelry booth. Okay, another booth with small, tiny items. This is Henrietta Glass. She's from Rhode Island. Notice she has made her own sign in the back, and she has large photos of her very small things. If you see the salesperson in the booth, the pedestal to her right has the little birds on it. In fact, the two pedestals there, those are how tiny those birds are. So now underneath her sign, you can see what she did to blow up the bird. And so all her other posters are showing little vases, bottle stops, things like that, that are tiny. Notice all the lighting. She has lighting virtually all around that booth. She has not used color wherever the glass is. She's just used white. You can get away with yellow, but don't put a dark color under glass because it will lose some of its shine and crystal-like effect. But she has used a good color, gray, blue, purple, as a color on the base of her pedestals. So again, you can keep all these things in mind. She did replace the pipe and drape with her own. It looks like that's a vinyl fabric that she has hitched up to the pipe. So keep that one in mind. This is an emerging booth. I don't know if some of you will go to shows that have an emerging booth. This was at American Handcrafted a couple of years ago. And that booth is 6 feet, I think, just by 4, if I'm right, I hope. But she did a very good job. Again, she used her panels in the background. She has really attractive jewelry display items. She got the table up. You can buy booster feet for your tables to get them up to that height. And she used a poster there that she actually takes to retail shows, but showing a really nice, well done emerging booth. Okay. This one is to show you how you can take things easy. This is Phil Roberts, and he makes these wonderful lasered art panels. They are several, 7, 8, 10, 12 layers deep. He has small ones and big ones. Notice he's put a little greenery into his booth, but those cases that he has there are actually what holds his artwork. So when he is ready to take down, he flops those cases on the floor, opens them up, picks up his artwork. He knows how they fit in those cases, and takes down easily. So when you're envisioning your booth, as lovely as Lori Eskenazi's is, I can tell you she works a full day and probably most of a night getting that booth together. So you want to be fresh for your show. You want to feel good. You want a good night's sleep before you're there. Make it easy to set up. Make it easy to take down when the show's over. You want to be able to get out of there. So keep all those things in mind. Don't decide to take your entire dining room buffet and table and chairs with you. It might be tempting, but you'll be sorry later. Okay, so this is a good example of somebody who thought it through well. I love this booth, not that I like the wild about the product. I mean, it's great, but it's so well organized and it says things so clearly. Notice he brought in another rug to put over the carpet that's there. An easy setup with the table. Things are very well organized. He has all his drinking cups, flasks, belts, leashes. Notice on the back wall, he has a picture of a little dog there with dog collars and then the leash. I mean, he didn't have to say leash, and he didn't hang them and you wonder what those were. There's a dog right there, and it's done so simply. Again, he has his own sign, Totter, New England. And then the sign on the left, I think, is really well done. Made in the USA, made by hand, 100% USA leather. And he'll do private labeling, manufacturing, and corporate gifts. Notice how neat his booth is. I said on the side, nobody wants to see or buy your lunch. And it really, one time I had a booth, the craft booth was across from a booth where two gals were working the booth, and they kept putting their coffee, their soda, their sweaters on top of things. And I just wanted to go over and move it. Be discreet with your personal belongings. I don't know where this fellow is hiding his, but there's not a thing in there that disrupts the buyer visually from making a big order. Okay, what do we have next? We're finally finished looking at booths. We're going to talk about the material you need in your booth. These are printed materials you're going to need. They don't have to be custom printed. Your business card, obviously, is custom printed. And we're going to take these one by one and look at them. A postcard, okay, just a plain postcard that you have had printed, okay? And we'll take a look at that. Your line sheet, we talked about that last week, but we have the same example. We'll talk about it again. Terms of sale. You have to know, be able to tell your buyer what your terms are, and we'll talk about those. And an order form, of course, because you're going to use a lot of order forms. Okay, let's flip and look at these one by one. Okay, this is a great business card. It's from Peggy Wolins, and she calls her studio Maymeep. And Peggy makes ceramic animal heads. And look at that. A ceramic animal head is right there. Every single one of her animal heads is different and unique. They each have a name. They're all personalized. But there is no doubt when you pick up Peggy's card, what she makes. You don't have to say, was that guy glass or ceramic? Was that somebody that made jewelry? In other words, if you put an image of what you're making on your card, it automatically relates to you. They know who you are and what you make. She used full color. She has her address, her telephone number, her email, and her website. And that's all you need. Do not add Etsy, okay? Once again, you're only dealing with, for this one card, with your retail, with your store, your retailer. And he or she will probably guess you might have an Etsy store, although I don't think Peggy does. But you don't want to advertise that. You don't want to put that in their face. I mean, and so this is just like a perfect card. Has everything you need and it's attractive. So get a good business card that is for your retailers, for your wholesale business. Okay, next, the postcard. Okay, this is one from Sarah Richardson Jewelry. I picked it up at the show at her booth. And it says her jewelry on the front. On the back of it, she may put her information like her mailing address and all of that. And she may actually leave the right-hand side blank so that she can mail it. If you already have some retail customers, you can take this postcard about a month before the show, 6 weeks, 2 months before the show, and mail it to your retailers and say, I'm going to be at booth number 1405, whatever the booth number is. You could print that on the card, but probably better not to handwrite it, because you can keep using the card from show to show if you have some left over. You also have a stack of these in the booth. So if a customer comes into your booth, looks around, says, oh, I really like your jewelry, but gee, you're one of the first booths I've seen. I'm not really ready to make decisions yet. You can take this card and say, great, I hope you come back and write down that you're booth 1405. Come back and see me, and this can be a reminder. Okay, so the card has several purposes. They can take one with them and put it in their file back at the store. They can use it as a reminder to come back to your booth. You can use it to mail after the show even, and say, I know you weren't able to place an order, but I appreciate your interest. You can see it on my website or on IndieMe or on Fair or whatever. So follow up with those people with this postcard as well. Postcard is a good thing to have. Okay, this is the line sheet that we've seen last week. Notice that it has all the basic information again on it, address and website and so on. And notice that every item has a code and a dimensions, a name, and a price. So we looked at that last week. But you should have these in your booth. If somebody says they're not sure, you can hand them one of these and say, you can place this online with me, or you can come back to the booth. Here's a reminder. So keep your line sheet. On your line sheet, you probably should have your terms. I require a minimum order of $350. I require a credit card payment before shipping, okay? Whether you take the credit card there or not is your choice. If you take it, make sure you are putting your copy of that in a very safe place, because you're responsible if somebody stole those credit card numbers, okay? So many times the artist will not take it and they'll call the customer, the retailer, and get the credit card before they ship. Tell them about any shipping or packing charges. Tell them if there's what they should do if they need to make a return. Maybe you aren't going to take any returns. Maybe you'll only take them within 90 days. Tell them what to do if there are damages. Save all the packing. Contact the shipper, and so on. You'll find that some customers, particularly if you're selling expensive items, high-end glass, so on, might ask you for exclusivity in the area. If you do want to give exclusivity, say what your terms are. I will give exclusivity by zip code, is most popular. And with people placing a $2,000 order annually or something like that, okay? You can look at other examples, but that basically is your term. And so they understand you're putting actual shipping charges on and so on, okay? All right, have an order form. Some people have printed order forms that are made especially for them, and they have every item on it, and you can put the quantity on and check it off. But some people just go with what they've multi-copy from, Office Depot or whatever, from Staples. Make sure that you have all the information, like take the buyer's card and staple it to that. Make sure the copy you give them has your name and telephone number. I can't tell you how aggravating it is as a buyer coming back from a show and having some of those that are blank with just a whole series of QR codes and a price. And you're like, what is this? Was this jewelry? It's usually jewelry. And you cannot make out anything on it. and you don't know where it's from. So make sure you have their name and they have your name. Don't forget to pack a stapler. Among the other things you bring to a show, you'll use it often. Okay, next. Booth protocol. Stay in your booth. Now, I know you'll have to leave at some point to find the restroom or to grab a soda. Maybe have a little sign that says back in 5 minutes. It might be tempting to wander around, but you should stay inside of your booth. In the beginning, particularly the first couple of days, sometimes the show slows down near the end, but you never know. I know many people, their very last order was what made their show. So stay in your booth, stay off your phone. Yes, you'll go on there once in a while, you'll call home, make sure everything's okay, whatever. But you don't want people to think, you're reading the great American novel and don't have time for them. Instead, look at the people that are walking up and down the aisle. Say hi to them. You never can tell. You can start a conversation with them. Hi, how you doing? And they might acknowledge you and stop and look at your booth. For the people that do come into your booth, acknowledge them. Say hello. Get out of your phone. Don't just sit there. And even if you're with another buyer, turn around and say, hey, I'll be right with you folks. If you know you can't be right with them, and try to avoid this if you can, you say, can you look around for, I'm going to be about 10 minutes. Give them some hope that you'll be with them soon. If they want to leave and say, I'll come back, then give them that postcard or give them the line sheet as a way to know how to come back. Have an introductory line about your booth. Let people know what they're seeing. You're looking at all the ceramics that I make with my wife in my New Jersey studio, or this is all my jewelry. Everything over here is sterling silver, and all of this is vermeil or 10 karat, whatever. You're giving them an idea of what you're selling. You might ask them a little bit about your store, but don't say it that way, like, tell me about your store, because I think, oh my God, what can I tell you? It's too big. Do you carry a lot of ceramics? That might help lead you one way or another to know if they're a customer that it really has a big interest in ceramics or just looking for an occasional piece. If they leave without ordering, give them a postcard and get their business card. Okay, you're not stapling it to anything. You're going to have a little envelope or file where you can follow up with them after the show. Thanks for coming into my booth. Take a look at my website or something like that. Okay, a basic protocol for your booth. After they've been looking for a while and asked you lots of questions, does this come in another size? Can this be round? Can this, whatever. And you have this feeling like they're really interesting, then ask the question, can I write an order for you? Would you like me to write this down? You're basically asking for the order, and you'll learn the timing on this. And usually people are grateful. Eventually they want to get out of your booth too. They know there are hundreds more they have to go look at today. So help them along and write the order for them. Hopefully they say, yes, go ahead. All right. After the show, these are the things you should do. 1, work to fill your orders promptly. Okay, that is your most important objective. If you cannot fill that by the date promised, call them up immediately and say, my kiln broke. My wife is having triplets, whatever your excuse is, but let them know and say, I'm probably going to be about 2 weeks beyond the date. They'll probably say just fine. 2 weeks isn't the end of the world to anybody. But if instead they're just waiting and you haven't told them that, they might think it's a lot longer than 2 weeks, Okay, make an artist card with every item if that's appropriate, and we'll have an example of that in just a minute. Next slide. Something that they can put in if the item is a gift for somebody in particular. If something goes wrong, communicate to your customer immediately. Follow up with the folks who did not order. Okay, that's why you took their business card. That's why you have that postcard. Maybe you have their email. Let them know that you're on Fair or IndieMe or wherever, that they can still buy your product. Consider adding a wholesale section to your website. I don't know if we've talked about that, but we will in just a minute. Okay, we can move on from that. I know you are going to have questions. You can take a look at this in your own time. This is actually a business size card, and it's from Glass Eye Studio. It's printed on both sides. And this is something that they give you with every ornament, bowl, vase, whatever. The line, all our glass contains ash from Mount St. Helens, is their selling point. This is just a good little story card that they use, and you can put it in with any of your items, if they're jewelry or wearable art, a scarf, a little bit about yourself and a little bit about the item. Okay. And consider adding a wholesale part of your website. This is Barbie Levy Jewelry. Notice on the left-hand side, right under home, it says wholesale. You can go online and look at this. And when you click wholesale, it tells you what you need to give to her to show you are a bona fide retailer. And then once she approves you, you go up to the right-hand top, that other aqua box, and that's your wholesale login. You'll be given a login code. And then all the same items are on there, but with, or every item that she wants to wholesale is on there with the wholesale price. And your customer can place their order or reorder. This is great for reorders right on your website. Okay, so that they don't have to wait till the next show. I'll call you up. All right, remembering the goal we started with, to establish that lasting relationship with your retailers. Seth Godin says it best: people do not buy goods and services. They buy relations, stories, and magic. So make your booth magic, have a good story, and work for those lasting relationships with your retailers. Okay, we'll take questions.
Wow, that was mesmerizing, Diane. I was enjoying that intensely. So let's take a look at our questions. Let's see, do we have anything here? Pop in here. Nothing yet. Now's a good time, folks, to drop your questions.
Come on, everybody.
I
was rushing so I could get to all your questions. I hate leaving you hanging.
Yeah, no, I suspect they were just as engrossed in your presentation as I was. I was like, eating it up, taking it all in. So let's see here. Maybe we have something in the chat window. Let's see.
I'll talk a little bit while you're looking, Sandra. Put your hand up, a wave or whatever. But I want you to keep in mind, particularly if you're alone setting up your booth, how difficult, don't make it more difficult for yourself, okay? Make it good looking, but keep ease and function there. If you have ceramic items, you are depending upon other people to get all those items to your booth, to remove your cases, bring your cases back. It's an involved process. If you don't quite understand the process, contact somebody at the show and have them walk you through it. Say, whenever you have 15 minutes, could you tell me how my materials get to my booth? Can you tell me how my cases come back to my booth? Can you tell me if there's where the nearest storage is for my booth? Don't hesitate to ask questions about your space to the people that are there. And usually within certainly 4 weeks of the show, they've assigned your number, they know where you are. they can really help you out a lot. So ask questions. If you don't understand the lighting, ask the question. At some shows, you're free to put up certain kinds of lighting. At other shows, there's a union involved and they have to put the lighting up. So ask those questions.
Perfect. So there's a question here about the wholesale pricing. Donna said that I sell currently through Artful Home and they price at Keystone. I have an established retail price on many items. Will that stop you as a retailer from purchasing from me?
Okay, repeat the question. She sells on Artful Home and they take just 2 times?
Correct.
Correct.
So,
and so her
have,
retail price is just 2 times.
Yes, that's her established retail price.
Yes, that might not help you. Okay, you might be looking, first of all, I don't know what your margin is. Okay, so you might have more room in that than you think. And if you do, you can leave it alone for a while. At some point when you're making a price adjustment, or if you are actually that close, you need to raise that price. And Artful Home, there are tons of people, Lori Eskenazi, so many of the people that you saw their work in these pictures, they sell on Artful Home. And so Artful Home is dealing with that, essentially that 2.5 price. Okay, so that becomes your price, your wholesale price. If it's $49 at the show, it's going to be $49 for Artful Home. Okay, and the retailer, yeah, get it all this, yeah.
Good point. And then just in terms of, for any of those brands who would be looking to rent furniture, I think one of the keys there is to try and plan in advance so that they can place their orders and pay that early bird pricing to the show decorators.
That's very true. Every show has a decorator,
right.
The one who's putting up the pipe and drape. And if you wanted a couch in your booth, he would rent you the couch. Okay, not many people want a couch, but he has those kinds of decor items. But Sandra's right, there is an early bird time. If you wait till the last minute, you're going to pay the highest price.
Right.
But all the shows have different decorators, and they all have different things that you can rent in different prices and different timing and different lighting and so on. So that's why it's important. You'll get all this material from the show. And sometimes you think, oh my goodness, this is so much. And you just put it aside, read it. Even if it's small print in its many pages, say, each day I will read 1 page till I understand it all. If you have questions, jot them down and then call your rep and ask what this means. They should know, and if they don't, they'll get the answer for you. But read your materials. Don't think you know. It maybe after your 20th show you know, but you don't know from the beginning. Really, read the material.
Don't be afraid to reach out and ask those questions.
I just urge you all to go into the show with the feeling that you're going to learn a lot and you're going to meet some wonderful people. Other artists are so helpful. I want to tell you, if you forget your step stool, if you can't find your pen, somebody will come to your rescue. Your neighbors are going to become lifelong friends. Many of them will teach you things that, you know, I've forgotten. So you will meet great retailers, and many of them listen to your retailers. Okay, I can't tell you how many people, Lori Eskenazi, the gal that we've made so much of with her, you noticed all those hearts? Do you know when she first went to a trade show, she was never going to sell hearts? So many people asked her if she made hearts. She started making hearts, and they're her very best selling item. So listen to your retailers. They might say, does this come smaller? Gee, I don't have a big yard. Gee, I live in an apartment. Does this? And you think, maybe I should make this smaller. Ta-da! It might become your best-selling item. So just enjoy the whole process and make the most of it, because it really is a wonderful world.
Well, on that very upbeat note, it looks like we've addressed all of the questions in the chat room. So thank you again, and thank you, Diane. And
My pleasure.
I see you very soon